Good morning, Flosstube friends. I'm Laura. I am a Canadian stitcher out of Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, and I've been very inspired by all the folks out there doing Flosstube videos for the first time, and I thought, well, they're pretty brave. I'm going to give it a shot. So I made a few notes to help myself because I knew I'd probably be a little bit awkward doing this. And also because there are a few folks that I want to mention who really kind of inspired me to become part of the Flosstube community, and I want to make sure that I mention them. So Samantha at the Samantha the Hyga Stitcher, Hygge, sorry for blundering through that. I'm sure it would be nice if you could correct me how to pronounce that properly. I'm sure somebody else knows. Anyway, she is out of Winnipeg, and she, in her first Flosstube video, did this beautiful whip parade, and it was really lovely to see all of these pieces in progress and what her processes are. And I love learning how people are doing things. All this information is new, and it wasn't available. Also Lauren, the New Hampshire stitcher, who in her first Flosstube I just found so relatable. Lauren, you are just lovely to listen to, and I like the kind of little bits of awkwardness as you kind of get used to the recording process, which I also am kind of fumbling through. And Cindy's adventures in stitching. So Cindy has a mobile she shed that she has named Sassy. So say that 10 times fast, but it's a cute little space. And so she does her work in there, and she's had, like, you know, a guest in there, and she's done an episode where she has gone to Cranberry Bog Cottage, which was a really neat little shop, really pretty, with lots of like great little cross stitch patterns, all kinds of things in there. And I love that she did that, being able to kind of feel like you were on the shopping trip as well, and getting to see what's in there and that kind of thing. And so it was really neat when she'd like bring the camera over, and then you see like the next pattern she zoomed into. It's like, oh, that's adorable. Anyway, so I did really love that. I thought that was really cool. And Johnny Saxon, who is a fella from Australia, I believe it is, and just really lovely to listen to. And I really enjoy, Johnny, your stories about your mom and how you found your mom really inspiring. And I relate to that too. My mom inspired me in many ways in my creative endeavors too. So I did like that. And Darcy, Stitchman Darcy, who had in one of his videos all of the floss organization on the little bobbins, and oh, so satisfying. Like, I am the same. I like them all in a container, all organized. I am a floss bobbin girl as well. I'm not a floss dropper, and if that's a thing. And I don't like the plastic ones. I've found they are a pain in the neck to try and like anchor your thread after you've cut a length, and then you're trying to like anchor it. And so I do like the cardboard ones, even though they do get, you know, if you're not careful with them, they will kind of fall apart, but they're easy to replace, right? So anyways, so I do like that. And I also want to mention Sharky Stitcher. So Lori, she made these beautiful pieces. There's a Rensel, don't know how to pronounce that exactly, and a Nora Corbett, and they are gorgeous, like just fully framed and beautiful. And so obviously a lot of money spent on the framing, and what a treasure to have that. Lori, I'd put that front and center somewhere in the house, where when you come in, that's the first thing you see. I want to see that every day. It's gorgeous. Both of those pieces. I'm sure there's more. I'm still making my way through the many YouTube videos, and so I'm grateful that all this information is out there, because back when I started cross stitching, like in the 90s, this information wasn't there. You picked up a pattern, you kind of read it and you figured it out, right? Or somebody at the shop told you how to do it, and that was it. So you got your hoop, you got your flosses, you got your supplies, and off you went. And so that was the process back then. So it's lovely now to be able to go onto YouTube and like learn all these like ways of doing things and options and stuff. So I've learned an awful lot already. But I have actually been cross stitching since I was a little girl. So I was born and raised in Burlington, Ontario, and it was really mostly just my mom and my sister and I, the three of us. And my well, my whole family's very creative, but my mom is very creative and always was. And so she did sewing and she taught me how to sew. But she also got into, for a while, needlepoint. She tries different things like me from time to time, but she got into needlepoint, and she was doing this big, beautiful piece of like I don't know, a village scene. I can remember there was like the top window with like the shutters thrown open, and there was a kind of a woman hanging out and talking to people, and there were people below, and that's all I really remember. No idea what happened to the piece. Neither does she, actually, at this point. She's in her 70s, so she doesn't know. So point is, I really learn to appreciate, something that gives me a creative outlet. We all need it. And I do get these times where I have a big creative energy, and I just need that, or I need it to balance. I find it calming. I find cross stitching really, really calming. So yeah, my mom recently has gotten into bunka. I'll have to show you her beautiful piece that she did for my daughter, who's went through a phase where she was really into horses. So she did this gorgeous piece where the horses are looking out of the little stall. I'll show that to you. But I think it was her. I don't know if it was somebody else. I think it would have been my mom. I got at some point a kit, and I think it was a needlepoint kit, because I think that was kind of the thing at the time. This was like the late 70s, early 80s maybe. I don't know. I was like, I don't know, 12-ish, I'm gonna say, maybe 12-ish. Sounds like a good age for something like that. And it was a little deer, it was like a little Bambi, and it was very satisfying to stitch. The kit came with everything you needed and a frame, right? So not only did you get to like stitch it and enjoy the satisfaction of doing that, there was also the ability to frame it, and then you had that finished piece. And so I was very satisfied with that, and that was kind of like one of my earliest memory, I think, of doing a needle craft that wasn't like crocheting or knitting. So that was one of my earliest things. And fast forward a little bit to my early 20s. I was in the 90s. I lived in Beamsville, Ontario, which is next door to Grimsby. And in Grimsby, there was a little shop. And it was a Dutch family that owned it. And they had, I think, mostly like quilting supplies, fabric quilting, but they also had like a lot of needlecraft as well, and they had some finished pieces and things like that. So that's where I got a lot of my stuff, and I found like wonderful patterns in there, and I did a lot. And it was at the time when like a lot of my friends were getting married and family members were getting married, so it was really nice to be able to stitch up something, a bigger piece, and give that frame it out and give it as a gift, so they have like a nice piece of artwork. In their first homes oftentimes together. So I had done a lot of pieces that I gave away, and which leads to another problem that I have. So, some people are hoarders. I am not. I am the opposite. I am a purger. So purgers confess. Let's confess. I, from time to time, maybe don't see the value in some of the things that I already have, or I kind of just, I've moved on to other things, or there's a lot of stuff sitting in spaces and I can't take it. And so like I do a lot of cleaning house and I gather it all up and off it goes. So I have given away a lot of stuff over the years that now that I'm looking back and I have an appreciation for some of those things, I am feeling some regret. So if anybody out there can relate to that. I don't really hoard stuff. I also don't I tend to not have like a bunch of projects on the go, although strangely enough, I did have these unfinished pieces that, not too many of them, but I do have a few. And mostly I like to finish a piece and get it done and fully completed and that kind of thing. So anyways, about I don't know, 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 years ago, my husband and I, who like to make things, so he has stuff he likes to make, I have stuff I like to make, we had decided at some point that we wanted to do some craft shows and maybe try and sell some of our stuff, which we are not salespeople, so I still have stuff sitting in my basement. So I don't know, maybe, mostly it's all Christmas themed, right? And I had made a whole bunch of little cross-stitch smalls that I had framed up and was selling. And I don't know, maybe I'll pull it out for like another episode. Maybe, I don't know, if I'm still doing this around Christmas time, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do a little, hey, here's my Christmas stuff sitting in my closet. So speaking of closets, last fall I was cleaning out my closet. This is kind of where I'm going with this. So cleaning out my closet, and I find a cross stitch that I had completed, just folded up, sitting there, and it had like yellowed, and or at least the fabric had yellowed in places, and I opened it up, and it was a completed Teresa Wentzler, her winter carousel horse, and I felt a little bit of, I felt bad. I felt bad that I had mistreated this piece that I had, you know, spent a lot of time working on, and I was really into, you know, back in the day. It's literally from the 90s. So I took it out and I washed it, and I had to wash it a few times, and I was able to clean it up. And then I thought, I am going to finish this. So I stretched it. Because of the cost of framing, right? You can give your stuff to the framers and they will do a beautiful job. But part of it, I think I can save some money where I do my own, like stretching it over the mounting board. So you can go to like, well, up here in Canada, we've got Michael's. So you can go and you can get acid-free mounting board, cut it to size, and you can stretch the piece over it, and you can pin it in place, and you have it ready to go into the frame. So that's kind of like one strategy for me, because I know how to do that. And if you want to see how to do that, I can certainly, I have a piece that actually needs to be framed. I had just completed it, a little kit that I found in my closet. So I did complete that, but that's actually when I haven't finished it. So if you want to see that, I don't know, let me know. And getting back to what I found in my closet. So the Teresa Wentzler. So let me grab it and show it. Okay, so this is Teresa Wentzler's winter carousel horse, and it is just a beautiful pattern with you know, the fabric is, it just looks like it's draping, right? And the mane is flowing and the tail is flowing, and it's got this gorgeous little frame around it of holly and like sort of like medallions, medallions in the corner. I think it called for beading. I didn't end up doing the beading, but this is what I found in my closet and just folded up and sitting there. So yeah, I stretched it out on the mounting board. So what I did was I had, you know, found all four sides. I found the middle, and I had, you know, stretched it back and pulled it. Oh, I had also, so I washed it, and of course, you know, they get like wrinkled up. So I pressed it, but I pressed around, right? I pressed all of the white spaces, and I pressed like the edges and that kind of thing. But I don't have a pin board. So if any of you like me took home ec back in the like mid 80s, you did partly cooking and partly sewing, and so part of the sewing was you were introduced to some of the tools of sewing, and so there are things that you can iron on, like there's a I seem to recall the word ham for like rounded things, and of course there's like a sleeve board and there's a pin board. So when you have something like this, if you just take your iron and like press on it, you can mash it up, right? So what you're supposed to do, you're just supposed to flip it down onto your pin board. So imagine a board with all these little pins sticking up, and you put your fabric over it and you press the back of it. So I don't have one of those, so I did the best I could with like ironing sort of around-ish, and I didn't do too bad. Most of it is kind of so the rest of it you can fix with the stretching. So the point is with the stretching is you pull it, right? If you pull it nice and tight, you can pull sort of the rest of those wrinkles out of there. And so when I was stretching it, so you start from the middle on all four sides, you kind of work your way out until you got to the edges. But depending on what you're stretching, so this is not Aida cloth, this is some kind of linen even weave-ish, something. I don't know, it's been too long. But it's very hard to get it straight. So what I also did was, if you can see this, is I stitched like a little guide thread once I realized where I was stretching to. So I had a guide to go by, so I kind of kept that on the edge as I went. And then you just take pins. So these are just little stainless steel sewing pins, I don't know if you can even see that, but you just pop it in, and so you go along and you put these nice and straight. And once I had that done, it's on the mounting board ready to go into a well, I also on the back I just threaded, so I just, you know, up and down, up and down, up and down, and then side to side, side to side, and then just pull it nice and tight, and that way the back is like nice and clean and ready to like stick right into a frame, right? So I did that, and the other thing that I'll point out was how long ago this was. So there's it's a 1994 piece that I had sitting, like, oh, I just feel so bad. But now I will take good care of it, and I will get a frame for it. So I found that one, and I don't have the pattern anymore. I know it's out there. Would I do the other horses? Probably not. I don't know. It was a lot of work, and if you've ever done any of her patterns, like, it's really quite intricate, but worthwhile though. Like, I mean, obviously with the finish, like, you know, hey, that's really gorgeous. So as I realized that I had this just sitting there, what else do I have in my closet? And so that led me right down the rabbit hole. So now I'm in Alice's Wonderland of like, on a finishing kick. So I also found another piece that was almost fully completed. Actually, that's a bit of a lie. It was completed. So this one is Girls with Bicycles. Let me just kind of go back so you can kind of see the whole thing, and then bring this in. And so this one is more like a watercolor. It's got sort of a watercolor, dreamy type of quality to it. And it's also, interestingly, a lot of white, but different kind of, hues and shades of white. But the fabric looks like it's draping, and like, look at these bicycle spokes. Like, these are just threads, which is really kind of cool. So at any rate, this one I had, I think, almost everything except for like just the little silver box that goes around to frame it. And I had not, unfortunately, signed it at the time. So I put last year's year on it, even though, I don't know, this was a few years ago. It certainly wasn't the 90s, not this one. I had the pattern like since the 90s, but at any rate, so this one, I do really, really love this piece. And so I did the exact same thing. I put my little, thread along here after washing it and ironing it, and then the little pins as well, so it's ready to go into a frame. Now when I did this one, when I cut the size of the board, another thing I was thinking was about the custom frames, right? So they're pricey as well. I mean, really, they're just molding that's just been put together in the corners. So I thought, what if I tried to pick something that's more of an off-the-shelf size and see if I can get a frame that's like ready-made, so I don't have to spend like, so many hundreds of dollars on like a custom frame. And then really the only thing I have to customize is the mat. So this is my theory at any rate. I haven't quite gotten to the frame part of it. I will be looking for. So this one looked like it would fit very nicely into a 20 by 24 was what I discovered as I was kind of like, so that's what I cut the board to, the acid-free mounting board. Like I said, that's what, I think I said that, that's what it should go on. So anyways, now the interesting thing about completing that piece is that I do still have the pattern for it. So this one is a Lanart, Stony Creek, Girls with Bicycles. I've had this since like I've had it since the 90s. I stitched it since the 90s. I just don't remember at what point I did it. See, that's why I should have signed it right away, but it's done now. This actually came from that shop in Grimsby, which I guess was called Patchworks, and I paid $8 for this pattern. $8 for this, so long ago, right? I mean, it was another world. But part of the finishing process was I noticed at the bottom, which I didn't do, but I did notice it after the fact, after I got all stretched and pinned, and I saw part of the pattern is this little signature. And I was like, who is that? And so there wasn't any information in the little pattern. So I started going online. And one of the things I've become really interested in lately is who are the artists behind the patterns that we get, right? So I went looking for, you know, what I could make of the signature. I couldn't quite make it out. It was like HAE something something TS. So I kind of went looking, and then I was like, girls, bicycles. So Google searches. And in the end, it turned out that this is based on a painting by an artist, a Dutch artist called Willem Haenraets. Haenraets, I think, is how you say it. Haenraets, Willem. And so Willem was an artist, and this was an adapted piece that somebody, now I don't know who the charter was, so who created this for me, this beautiful, you know, cross stitch pattern adapted from that piece, and it was called Race Day. So I was like, oh. So what I was thinking was really nice is maybe having, like, once I've got framed up on the back, I'll have like, I'll type up a little blurb about what I've learned about the artist, and, you know, where he's from and his years and yada yada, and what this was based on. Because I was thinking, you know, it's nice to be able to, you know, have a piece and then kind of like, what's the history of this? Like, where did this come from? How did this come into existence? And so I've taken a real interest in original artists and how things come about. And this influence is from my daughter, to be honest. So my daughter is, among other things, she does digital artwork. And so she creates these, you know, really lovely characters, sometimes scenes, like there's all kinds of stuff that she does. But she's in a world of folks that do this. And one of the things that happens to them is a lot of times they don't get credit, or some people actually steal their stuff and just, you know, promote it, and they get nothing out of it. So, you know, that's not really fair to the artist. So I think that's a great way to proceed, is to make sure that I'm giving credit where credit is due. So that's kind of another part of this evolving process down the rabbit hole of, like, the more I learn, the more I want to know. So that's what I've been doing with that. And interestingly enough, in addition to, you know, these two pieces, as I go through the what's in my closet theme, wait, there's more. No, not another finished piece. So I do have, oh, I don't have it actually with me. I'll maybe show it on another episode, if there's going to be one, but there might. There's another kit that I had, and it was like a dimensions kit my mom had given me, and it was just sitting, and I hadn't done anything. And this I discovered, like, probably only about like a couple of months back, maybe a month and a half. And I was like, nope, I'm going to do it. I'm going to complete that. And so stay tuned, I guess, for that one. But also in my closet, not a finished piece at all, not even a started piece, but a pattern. So here's the pattern that I did years ago that I had hanging on my wall that I really liked. And then at some point I just gave it away in one of my purging moves. And, but I found it. There was a little shop in, so I have, this is the pattern from Donna Barton, and this top one here is the one that I had done all those years ago, way back in like the 90s. And I was so happy to find this. This just came from like there was a little shop here in Cambridge for a few years, for many years apparently, well before I came to Cambridge. And I was so excited to find this because I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it again. At some point, it's on the to-do list. But this is Donna Barton, and so this, I don't know if she actually was her artwork. So it's based on her like watercolors. So she's got a few of them in here. So she's got the dinner call, the geese all heading off for dinner and walking in the front of wherever that building is, and she's got a couple of other ones in there. And I never did the little ones. They're kind of cute too, the smaller geese and the rabbits. Anyway, so where was I going with this? So the artist and who brought us this, right? So Donna Barton, who is, I'll have to check that, watercolor artist. And I didn't even think to do this previously, but hey, This is great. So this particular one comes with some information about who brought this project to us. So the designer publisher, so I guess maybe the charter, is Linda Holst. So thank you, Linda, for putting this together. And about the artist is Donna Barton. And so there's a little blurb in here. Now this is quite a while ago. She was living in Utah at some point and Southern California. Yeah, talented, versatile artist. Watercolors of flowers, landscapes, historical buildings, etc. Anyways, just great to have that information. I just think that's awesome. Let's give credit where credit's due. So I may end up doing that one. I would like to have that again. So I don't think I'm ever going to be able to find the original piece that I did, but I do have the ability to recreate it, which is cool. That was another thing in my discovery of what's in my closet. So I guess really where I'm going with this is, knowing more about these great artists that are the ones behind these designs that come to us, and who are the people that kind of get that into our hands, which is really kind of awesome. I have a deeper appreciation of that, of a lot of things now. It's kind of taken me this long to get there, but that's what I've discovered going through my closet. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was, with my dimensions kit. Actually, let me grab that. Let me show that to you. Hang on just one sec. Sorry about that. I know the editing is going to be a little bit choppy, but still figuring it out. I was saying that I had this kit that I had not done anything with as part of my stash sitting in my closet. It was given to me by my mom as she was cleaning out her closet. And this is a little dimensions. It's a little village scene. It's called Village Serene is the name of it. I've done no looking up yet of the artist behind this, but it was a kit. The Gold Collection Petites. It came with everything. It came with the flosses that were strangely followed no numbering system that I'm familiar with, but it works. And I didn't love the piece of fabric it came with, but I had some in my stash of stuff in my closet, so I pulled out a different piece. And I did it. I've done nothing with this, but I only just did this one. Okay, so this isn't another sitting in my closet for many, many years. This is legit. I had only just finished this a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So it's not even been washed. It's all, you can see all the wrinkles on it still. And this is it completed. Yeah, you can just kind of see it's just a, I don't know, very nostalgic kind of piece. So I will wash it, I will iron it, I will stretch it and get it ready for a frame. And that's where I was going with this. The other thing that I learned, again, as all this information is available to us, so this is what I love about this community, is the sharing of knowledge, strategies and stuff that I never picked up on my own. I figure my own stuff, but how nice that people start talking about gridding in some of their videos. So I made a note about this. Annette's Needles and Sally at Caterpillar Cross Stitch, how cute is that? They talk about gridding, and I was like, gridding? Well, that's genius, because I actually do prefer the fabrics that are more like a linen or an even weave or something like that, as opposed to the Aida. Maybe I will develop a better appreciation for Aida in my growth. But anyway, I do love that. And the problem is, sometimes, I don't know if you're like me, but when I'm stitching, what I like to do is, if I've got a color on my thread, I want to finish whatever the area is that I've got that. So I might do that area and kind of jump to the other area, which if you're not counting carefully, you can get everything off by just a little bit. And so pretty much every project I've ever done has had that somewhere where I'm just off by a little bit. It's usually not horribly noticeable, and I've been able to kind of hide it, especially with backstitching, right? Thank goodness for backstitching. In this case, I discovered gridding just after I'd started this project, which is probably a good thing, because I don't know, for whatever reason, I was starting to get a little bit off. So I tried two methods. I did like the actual thread because I wasn't sure what I would like. So I'm on this exploratory mission, and I create the threads every 10. And what I liked about that is like as you're stitching, you can kind of go under your guide thread and it's still there, like it's still on top. So you can still use it to count later on when you're trying to figure out where to put your stitch. And then the other thing was some people were using pen, like the water soluble pens. So just in the top, I don't know if you can see this, but I do actually have some of the marks still here that hasn't been washed out, where I tried it with a pen, and there's kind of pros and cons to both of them, right? Like the only problem with the pen is it gets buried behind your stitches, so it's a little harder. But the pro side is you're not having to like avoid that thread as you're going through and stitching it. You don't have to keep like going under it, sort of thing. So I thought that was a really neat experiment, and I really liked that. I liked how much it kept me on track. So I think I would definitely do that strategy again in future projects, just knowing how I stitch and what I like to do. So thank you for that information, folks, for sharing that. Also things that are like project bags. Oh my gosh, project bags are so beautiful. Like all the little accoutrements that you can get now, and like needle minders, which I don't have any of those yet. I also don't have any project bags. You know what my project bags are? This is my project bag. It's a Ziploc baggie where I throw my floss in it and my my little snippers and whatever else I need. That's my project bag. So a little bit lame. Maybe I'll evolve. Okay. But also I'm not somebody who has like multiple projects on the go. I think that's really neat that a lot of people do that. Like it helps them probably in a lot of ways where you're like, sometimes you get a little bored if you're doing a lot of the same thing over and over and you need a break from it, but you don't want to stop stitching. So I think that's kind of neat. I tend to be a stitcher who goes like, do the thing and finish it before you do the next thing, right? And what is that? Like a serial stitcher? No, that makes me sound like a serial killer, not a serial stitcher. What is that? Monogamous? Is that a monogamous stitcher? That's also a funny term. Makes me sound like I'm like cheating on my stitching. So anyways, but that's how I tend to do it. So that's probably maybe why I don't have a lot of project bags, but I do love the concept, and there's some really beautiful ones out there. I'm sure I could make them if I had the inkling to do it. But also other really neat little tips and tricks. Other stuff that I've discovered out there is like just some of the how-to videos. I'm like, I already know how to cross stitch, but then I was like, you never know, you might pick up something. So I'm trying to stay open-minded, right? So like that neat trick about how to pull the thread out of your skein. So when you cut a length of it and you just kind of like grip the end and you grip your thread and just pull it out. And I'd never done that. Honestly, I would take my two threads and I would like, pull them apart, but of course they have to untwist. You got to kind of roll them around your fingers. Anyways, thank you, Kimberly at Fat Quarter Shop, for like your tutorial. I guess more for folks who are brand new to stitching, but like that was such a simple thing. I'm like, that's so smart. Like it works too. I was waiting for it to get all knotted and balled up. It doesn't do that. So I'm like, cool. And I always use like, I'm going to say almost always use DMC, but there was something else that came in the kit and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was DMC. It might've been. I don't know if it was DMC, but it was just unlabeled flosses. And what am I doing now? So I'm entering a new phase. So I have been very inspired by all of the mirabilias that are out there. They are beautiful and a lot of work and very gorgeous. Well, honestly, I should say definitely not compared to like the Heaven and Earth designs, but they're very beautiful and you can really like put a lot into it, like beading and like the special threads that are, have like metallic tone to them and things like that. They are quite beautiful. And so I was very inspired by that. And I thought, well, I would do a mirabilia, but my daughter's an artist who does like kind of similar types of mystical, kind of like to go along with the theme of my Teresa Wentzler's, horse is these sort of mystical themes. And I thought, what if I did my daughter's design? So I'm on that project right now and I am right down the rabbit hole because my early plan of just turning it into a counted cross-stitch chart, that didn't quite pan out. It wasn't, I would have to show you for you to like see it. Well, you tell me if you want to see what happened with that process and how I got to where I am now. But basically, short story was I tried. I had watched Michelle, the Giddy Stitcher. What a great name is that, eh? She's so quirky and fun. And she did a video where she tried every free cross stitch pattern converter. And I'm like, oh, that's what I'll do. I'll just take her design, I'll make it the size I want, and I'll put it through the cross stitch converter. So I went to go do that, and it just didn't map nicely. I was getting all these weird random, it's just kind of the way the design is. So I thought, what else could I do? So I ended up basically tracing it onto the fabric, and I'm now using like just a picture with what the colors are. And what it was good about that was like how to figure out my DMC floss colors, right? So anyways, that's part of the process. And then I ended up like, now I'm just kind of filling it in as I go. So it's a bit of an adventure, and it doesn't have any kind of a background plan just yet, but I will borrow from the ideas that Mirabilia puts out and some other ones where I think some sort of like maybe a leafed frame around it, or like I'll decide once she's done, because I want to see like what she's going to turn out like first. And some of those like swirls and things like that that make Mirabilia so beautiful. So that's what I plan to do to it, and that's what I'm working on right now. And one thing that I did discover that made things very different for me, which I really like, is how I have something that's a work in progress, how I have it stretched. So I have hoops. You probably maybe see them back there, but I have always used hoops. What I don't like about hoops is, of course, you got to move them around. You got to deal with all the extra fabric and what to do with that, and like it will flatten it as you like move your hoop onto some areas that you have done, and you can't get the corners, and like there's all that stuff. Right now I know there's other hoops. I know you can get sort of square hoops now, but I was watching this great video. Nicole at Darvanalee, I think is how you say it, Darvanalee Design Studios. Her and her husband Brandon showed exactly how to make your own Q-snaps. So I was looking at the Q-snaps and I'm like, they're like charging 30, 35, 40 bucks online for some of these. And she was like, no, just go get your PVC pipe. I'm like, genius. And we're a bit of DIYers at our house, so I'm like, why don't we do that? And so I went and following her video, I went and got my 1/2 inch PVC pipe with the 4 elbows for like 12 bucks, and like the clippy things, so the U-clips that hold it into place, those were also expensive online. And I found, so if you're in Canada, Lee Valley Tool is a place where you can get these PVC U-clips. Just make sure you get the right size for the pipe. Like there's 1/2 inch pipe and there's 3/4 inch pipe, but I got 1/2 inch. And there's like, you can get 10 of them for like 8 bucks. So, all told, 12 bucks and 8 bucks, what is it, 20 bucks, I think, for cut your own length. So this is the other neat thing, is you make whatever size you want. So I made it to the size that would work for me on the project that I'm doing with my daughter's piece. And I love that. So it's all like in the frame, and like, it's a bit bigger, but I have worked with large, not hoops, large stretcher frames. And so that's what I love. And now I still have some PVC pipe downstairs. So we cut them to the lengths that I measured, like what would be good to stretch this out and give me some space, some working space. And just cut them to size, give them a little sand on the end so I don't have any sharp bits, even though it doesn't matter because they actually literally go into the elbows. It's just plumbing materials. I gave it a wash first, of course, a little scrub down, and then I stuck them all together, and I used my U-clips and snapped it all into place, and Bob's your uncle. And so I'm working on that project right now. So that's kind of another thing that's come out of this whole Flosstube community and inspiration and ideas, and I just love that all the sharing is going on. So at any rate, I apologize, this has probably gone a lot longer than I anticipated, but I wanted to make sure I got everything. I wanted to make sure I got everything in there, and you know, just shared with you where I'm at in this journey, and that I am so greatly appreciative of all of you out there. And thank you so much for what you do share, and keep inspiring me. I do really love it, and I will keep looking for more and more information. So yeah, if you have any tips or tricks for me you think that would be helpful, or ways to change some of the stuff I can do that might be easier, I'm always open to that kind of stuff. So that's really cool. And if there's stuff you want to see, if you want to see me finish the dimensions piece, if you want to see more about the process for my daughter's artwork, her Maida, M-E-D-A is the name of her piece. So I'm stitching Maida. And if you want to see more about Maida, I'm happy to share that process as well, maybe in future videos. But at any rate, that's what I'm doing. And thank you for putting up with all the awkward and all the strange, like, you know, editing, which I'm sure will be. I haven't edited yet, but I'm sure that's what's going to be. Anyways, so thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed what I put out there today, and feel free to share any comments or feedback you have with me. Anyways, have a great day, happy stitching, and we'll see you again. Thanks. Bye.